Hello, welcome, good afternoon, or morning, or night, whatever it is for you. Please don't mind the mess. I know that I've been saying that in almost every single video, but I feel like my house is so messy right now because I'm still trying to I'm still getting furniture, I'm still putting things in their places. All my little knickknacks that were on my bookshelves in my other apartment are currently just on my desk. My cat knocked them down earlier today. So I just left them like that because she thinks they're dominoes. We're here to do the mid-year freakout tag and it's my very first one. So I'm really excited to do this. Excited and also a little bit apprehensive. I have been putting this video off for so long because I started thinking about recording for this video in June and I did not get around to recording it or sitting down. I've been having my notes open for a while, but I just finally, towards the end of July, decided to actually sit down and do this. So this is only going to include books I read. Oh my god, that is the biggest wasp I have ever seen. Oh. Sorry, you're gonna see a lot of me talking about wasps because there's a lot of wasps here. This is just going to include books that I read up until the end of June. I'm not including any of the books that I read in July. I actually don't know I feel like technically all of June should count. Originally I was thinking of doing it until May, but that's only 5 months. So I think until June is good. And I made a little, a very brief reading stats. I'm not gonna go into it too much just because I do use Storygraph, but I haven't been using it well enough. Not well enough, but I feel like I haven't been using it regularly enough. And I'm not sure if it's super updated. So maybe I'll use that for the end of the year. But for now, we're just gonna go based off of me literally going through my Goodreads and then translating that to Notion and Canva and stuff. So reading stats. I set my goal up for 100 this year, and not because I wanted to put pressure on myself to read, but also I like a challenge. So I actually have done this several times before, several years before, and I've never gotten to 100. I think the most I ever read in a year was 80, around 80. So I don't think I'm gonna get there, especially because of the reading slump that I was in during June. And at this point, Goodreads is telling me, and Fable are both telling me read 5 books to catch up to your goal. I'm like, babe, I'm too busy. If you didn't see my life update video last week, basically I'm gonna be teaching again in end of August, beginning of September, and I don't think I'm gonna have as much time to read, just because I'm not going to. I'm going to be taking on 3 classes and I'm really excited about it. That's not to say it's a bad thing. I'm actually so excited to be teaching again. And I'm going to have a lot more students than I've ever had before. But at the same time, I'm not going to have my own classes. So we'll see how it goes. But I think 100 was very ambitious. Also, I thought I was going to be employed for a much longer time, unemployed for a much longer time. So I was just what am I going to do with myself? Read. But thankfully, I will be employed. So I'll probably not be able to read as much. Anyways, so my stats until the end of June, I read 47 out of the 100 that I set, which I still am really happy about. But 47, I'm including the DNFs. So I had 2 DNFs. And then I broke it down by month. You'll see I'm really proud of the little chart thing I made. It's so simple, but I'm proud of it. I read the most number of books in April, which makes sense because April was really when the semester was winding down, and I was caught up on grading, but I also wasn't I was trying to not think about the end of the semester craze of grading and student communications and this and that. So 14 in April, the least number of books that I read was actually surprising to me, but March and June were both the lowest with 4 in those months. I'm not mad about it. I thought I wasn't gonna hit 2 books in June, so it's fine. And 2 DNFs the whole year, and I know what both of them are, Lolita and Fish Have No Feet. So didn't enjoy both of those, but like for different reasons. Those are my official DNFs, because there have been books that I've picked up throughout the year that I put aside, but they've been books that I picked up and put aside and was like, okay, I'm gonna read this later. I'm gonna read this when the mood strikes or whatever. So 2 final DNFs that like I unhauled / got rid of / was like not going to read. And then genres is the other one that I made. I'm so glad that like lately I've been in such a fantasy mood, because I genuinely towards the end of last year and even the beginning of this year, I was really gravitating towards literary fiction, which I love, but I've always been more of like a fantasy girly, and I was kind of like, oh no, am I losing my, my joy, my childhood wonder, my love for fantasy? But I think it was just that I wasn't finding like books that I was enjoying, or maybe I was reading fantasy books, but because they were closer to like realistic fiction, I didn't count them. But when I was going through, I think this one was based off of Storygraph actually, but I don't know. When I was going through the books and the list of books, you'll see that the addition, like if you added all the numbers in this chart, it's going to be more than 47, and that's because some of the books, they overlap. But yeah, my most read genre is fantasy, and my least read is romance, which romance is, I'm also surprised, because I'm pretty sure last year I read more romance overall. I could be wrong, but I remember like last year in January, I read 12 books, and most of them were romance books by like Taylor Jenkins Reid and Emily Henry. So it being my least is actually kind of crazy. And also, I never thought I was like into sci-fi unless it's like sci-fi fantasy, and it kind of checks out that it's like my second, like, oh wait, no, I'm wrong. Sci-fi is my least read. I was wrong. I actually read more romance than sci-fi by 1 book. Okay. Anyway, so never mind. I was wrong. That whole rant, we can scratch it, but I'll let you see it. So those are like my stats. Those are the only stats that I like really cared to kind of look over before I answered the questions. And the other part of this is also that I do want to, like, I added a couple of questions before like the main ones that I like found online. A lot of people do this differently. Some people add like TV shows and movies. Some people will add different questions. I took like the basic list of questions, and I'll link the website that I found. It was like a book blog that listed the questions, and then I added like 1 question to it because I was like, this is relevant for me. I also want to add in genres that I really want to read more of in the second half of the year, and that's definitely more nonfiction. I actually just recently, I think I got it from Barnes & Noble, but I went to Barnes & Noble and I got Cultish because I originally started listening to it as an audiobook on Libby, but I was like, I always have this like mixed feelings with nonfiction, because sometimes I want to like read it myself so that I can like highlight it, and I feel like when I read things myself, I remember them more. But at the same time, listening to audiobooks is really fun because it feels like a podcast. But this one was like super interesting to me, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just get the book and like highlight it and stuff. So I want to get into more nonfiction. Another book that I want to read is The 100 Years War in Palestine. I've had that in my Kindle library for a while. I keep putting it off, but I do want to read that one. That's like very high on my list. That's also another book. Those are 2 books that I really want to get into. So let's get into the real questions, which I don't even know who started this. Like, I tried to find out who started this, but I couldn't. So if anyone knows, let me know. I just found like a bunch of either videos of people making it or book bloggers that were like writing a response to the questions, and so I just took those ones. Ugh, I'm actually really excited. So what's the best book you've read so far in 2025? I'm not gonna have my books on hand because they're all in this closet because I don't have shelves yet. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself a lot, but I don't have the physical books, so we're just gonna show them here. The best book that I read so far in 2025 is 1984 by George Orwell. That book continues to live in my brain rent-free. A lot of things in the world, when I'm like just doing random things, I think about it and it comes up, and I just think that like that book, George Orwell, ate with that because it was so good. It was actually genuinely such a good read. And what's crazy to me is that like as I was reading that book, there were definitely parts that dragged on, But because the overwhelming, like the overall of it was such an insane experience for me, that didn't detract from like how much I enjoyed it. I don't know, it was just so good. It was so good and like so relevant, but beyond the relevancy, it's just like it made me also think about so many things. And I love me a book that's brain off. Like when I read Problematic Summer Romance, and we're gonna get to that too, that's gonna come up, but reading like Problematic Summer Romance is so fun because like I can turn off my brain when I'm really stressed about like XYZ, which was so helpful when I read it. But I love books that make me kind of fall down a rabbit hole of like, I'm thinking about this, now I'm thinking about that, now I'm thinking about this, now I'm seeing how it kind of shows up in the real world, how it shows up in myself. And I just love that. And 1984 gave me so much fuel to like think about, so just to think. So 1984 is definitely the best book I read this year. Okay. The second question is, what has been your favorite sequel in the first half of the year? And I read The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater, and that was so fun. It was such a good book. I wish I did a reading vlog on it. Honestly, every time I really enjoy a book, I'm like, I wish I did a reading vlog on it just to record the experience and also like verbalize my thoughts. With a lot of these books, like I have so many thoughts and like excitement and reactions, but I don't verbalize them unless I'm doing a vlog. And so then I'm like, I kind of wish that I did that. So the Dream Thieves, and I'm also like have Lily Blue on my like in my Kindle right now from the library. I just need to get to it, but definitely that was my favorite sequel that I've read so far. Third question is there a new release you haven't read yet that you're really excited about? And I'm going to say Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I really love V.E. Schwab's writing, and I really love the stories she tells. They don't always hit for me. Like I enjoyed a couple of the books from the Shades of Magic book series, but then I loved Addie LaRue, and I did read her YA like witchy set in Edinburgh. What is it? City of Ghosts? I don't know, one of the books that she wrote. So I've read a significant number of her books, and they are usually hit or miss, but not like in the extreme hit or miss. It's not like I hated this book or I DNF it. It's usually like I'll read that and I'll be like, it wasn't as good as I expected to be. And then there are all other books in her catalog, I guess, that I really love. Just like I really loved Vicious as well. Vicious was so good. So I'm excited for this one. It already released. I think it released in July, but I haven't read it yet. I have a hold on it in my Libby app, so I'm hoping that I can get it soon. I'm also like not super bothered if I don't get it until fall, because it is vampires and stuff, and I think that it would be like a good book to read then. The only thing is I'm also a little, as much as I'm excited to read it, I also have some hesitations because I have been hearing like different people's thoughts on it, and like I don't know, I'm excited to read it. I'm gonna read it for myself too, but there has been like that kind of like dual feelings about it, which is also relevant for the next question, number 4, which is what's your most anticipated release of the second half of the year, which is Catabasis. I don't know why everybody cares how it's pronounced, although maybe, I don't know, Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. That's another one that I'm kind of like, it was in my books that I want to read in 2025 video, and I still stand by like I want to read it, but I've been hearing more and more details about it, and this is why I kind of but this is kind of why I don't like knowing too much about the books that I get into or that I'm planning on reading before I read them, because I'll hear different people's opinions, or like I'll hear specifically things that happen in it, and then I'm like, do I want to read this? And then I won't. And sometimes I feel like I miss out on books because I prejudge them based off of like something that I heard. So excited about it. I'm excited for it to release, and I'm just hoping that I can get myself to like read it sooner rather than later, because again, I can definitely see a world in which I'm like, this isn't as cool as I expected it to be. So like, it doesn't sound as cool as I expected it to be, so therefore I'm not gonna read it. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. We'll talk about it when I read it, I think. Hopefully. Next question is biggest disappointment so far. And I have two. The first one is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. And that I say with the caveat and the disclaimer that this was the only book in the series that I didn't read for myself. Like, I didn't have a physical copy and I didn't have a Kindle copy. I listened to it as an audiobook. And I don't think that the audiobook narrators did a bad job, but for some reason the experience of it was just not great. And I didn't feel like I was interested in the story. And I don't know if it's because I wasn't reading it myself, and maybe like I was just more, because there is that element, I think, with audiobooks that sometimes I can be like more distracted, so I find it hard to pay attention, as opposed to like other times when I'm like more in the mood for an audiobook. So it was kind of a disappointment. I don't know if I'd ever revisit it to see if I would like it if I read it myself, but I feel like in the whole series, Map of the Other Lands, the second book, was my favorite one, and I enjoyed that the most. This one just kind of felt like pointless, not even pointless, but I felt like not much was happening for so much of the book. And I don't even think if that's like you can blame the audiobook, like, or it being an audiobook for that. It just genuinely felt like nothing was happening for so much of it. So yeah, that was a disappointment. The second one is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Everybody talks so highly of this book, so I feel bad saying this, but I also listened to this as an audiobook, and I thought the concepts were cool, like the whole idea of using like magic being trapped in cards and having those cards on you, or like tapping them so that you can like get their power. I thought that was really cool, but the romance did nothing for me. I didn't think that it was like, I don't know, I didn't like it. I was just like, eh. I also felt like, I honestly, like, full disclosure too, I genuinely didn't even know who she was supposed to fall in love with. Is it Raven that she's like falling in love with? I was like, is she supposed to fall in love with the Raven, or is she supposed to fall in love with the shepherd guy, the old king or whatever? So didn't really enjoy that one. Didn't love the romance, and I don't think I'm gonna read the sequel for that one. Like, some people have said that second one's better, so I don't know, we'll see. Like, maybe if at some point I get my hand on it, like I see it's available on Libby or something, I decide to read it. But it was like kind of disappointing because I was looking for like a good fantasy that would like take me, like pull me in, and it just was not that. So those are the two disappointments. Question number 6 is biggest surprise so far, which I actually have that one on hand because I ordered it from Bookshop during the anti-prime sale. But Problematic Summer Romance was definitely my biggest surprise so far. So everybody was talking about it, and I wasn't planning on getting to it that fast or that early, but I ended up getting it on Libby first. And I read it so fast, it got me out of a reading slump. It is such a crazy book, and like I think I have to make a video at one point, and I want to do like a research video at some point, just analyzing why, for me at least, I enjoyed Problematic Summer Romance. But this age gap romance, where there's a 15-year difference between the 23-year-old Maya and the love interest, main character, and the love interest Connor. Yeah, his name's Connor, right? Yeah, Connor. He's 38. There's 15 years difference between them, and why this one was so enjoyable for me. I was giggling. I was kicking my feet, okay? But this is the book that I read that gets me out of a reading slump after reading Lolita, which I didn't even finish. That was DNF. That's also like age gap, but it's not just age gap, to be very like, let's just make that clear. But it was just weird to me because as I was reading this, I was like, huh, like it's just weird to think that if you age these people down, it would be gross, but when you age them up, it's not. And like, I've heard different ideas and thoughts about like why that is, but I still think on some level it's weird, and obviously it's problematic, but this was so fun. I feel like a hypocrite a little bit, but no, because in Lolita she's 12 and the guy is 40. It's not the same thing. But anyways, this was my biggest surprise of 2025 so far. So question 7 is a book that made you cry. Definitely All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. It's in my closet. I love that book so much. I read that back in March, I think. And that book genuinely like tugged at my heartstrings and like just made me feel so deeply for the characters and what they were going through and just their arcs. And I don't know, I just loved it. It was such a grief filled book, but with like with strings and threads of hope that I just really, I don't know, it was so powerful. Sabaa Tahir is honestly like incredible, and I will probably read everything she writes except for the final book in the in the Ember in the Ashes series, because I've never read that one. And then question number 8, a book that made you happy. I'm sorry, but it did. It's also because the yearning in this book is so strong. Like, she brought yearning back. It was so good. And then also it takes place in Italy. Like, are you kidding me? Okay, anyway, probably like summer romance for that one too. This is a question that I added, which is a book that you immediately wanted to reread. It was so good that you immediately wanted to reread, which I guess could also be what's the best book you read in 2025, and the book is the same. 1984. I genuinely was like, should I start from page 1 again? Like, as soon as I finished it, I was like, should I start again? And I was like, no, I have so many other books that I need to read, and I didn't. But that was definitely a book that I immediately was like, I want to reread, because again, I felt like if I reread it, there would be even more that I like dissected and picked up on and stuff. So maybe this is like a unnecessary question to add, but I just wanted to put out there. And this has happened to me before with a movie, which is I watched Pan's Labyrinth in like 2017, and I literally, it was the only movie, to this day, it is the only movie that I ever watched, finished, and I did start watching it all over again because it was a movie. Like, you know, books are really, they take longer than like a 2-hour movie. I rewatched that as soon as I finished it because it was so good. So I experienced that feeling again with 1984, which is why I was like, again, that's why it's like top so far this year. Finally, last but not least, the final question. Why am I so tongue-tied? Books that I want to read before the end of the year. So I wrote down 5 books that I want to read by the end of the year. This is like a really big mix. I think a couple of them are newer releases and some of them are older. I own some of these books, and then some of them I have them on Kindle. I'm just gonna do it like this. So I'm gonna like point and they're gonna show up and it's gonna be cool. If I can do that, if I can figure it out. But the first one is Arsonist City by Hala Alian. I own that book. I literally want to read it so bad, but I keep putting it off, and I know why I keep putting it off, because I am very aware that it would probably make me cry at some point. The Safekeep by Yael van der something. I don't have the titles, the authors' names, but they will be in the video description. I heard about this from Leonie. She is a booktuber in like the Netherlands, and when she was talking about this, it was kind of similar in some ways to some things I'd written, and I was like, I need to read this right now. So I want to read The Safekeep. That's the second one, if I put it in if I'm pointing to the right place. I want to read The Unmaking of June Farrow, which I think is like a fantasy. I actually don't know anything about it, and that's usually how I go into my books, so just fair warning, I can't explain to you what these are about, most of them. There's The Lamb, which is I think that's a newer release. I think it's about like a mother-daughter relationship and like what's it called, cannibalism. So we're gonna see what happens with that one. Finally, I want to also read Devotions by Mary Oliver. This one I've actually started reading. It's just like a poetry collection, and I've been wanting to get into poetry more because I just feel like, I don't know, for me, poetry has always been like a complex thing because I feel like when a poem hits for me, it hits and it stays in my mind. Like there's this one poem he was like in charge of the writing department at my undergrad university, and like he was also like the leader of a little writing group that we had, and I don't remember how I came across it, but it was so beautiful. And like to this day, it's one of my favorite poems, even though like he's not a big poet by any means, but it's such a beautiful poem. I'll also link it so that you guys can see, because it's genuinely such a beautiful poem. And then also like Wild Geese by Mary Oliver, some poems by Andrea Gibson, who just passed away literally like last week, which was just so heartbreaking because I wish I'd engage with their poetry more. Like I'd seen their videos on Instagram reels and like I'd seen about them, but I feel like I wish I'd engaged with their writing more. And I'm planning on I'm going to, like, the beautiful thing about writing and poetry and all of that is that even after you're gone, it stays, you know? And so I'm hoping to get into that more. And so I just really want to get into poetry more. And this is also what I'm doing. I've actually started going to the pool, which has been difficult because sometimes I'm like hesitant because I'm just like, I don't know, it's gonna feel weird. But I started going to the pool and I was taking with me, and like I'm trying to be less like strict about the condition of my books. Like I want them to be read in, but sometimes you want to keep them in good condition. But anyways, that's a long tangent to say I've also started reading this one. And yeah, that is the mid-year book tag, which I'm so excited that I'm finally doing for the very first time ever. And then I also hope to just like give my life spice it up a bit with the TBR chart, which is coming soon. I have to get back into my little like reading vlogs. That's it from me. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys in another video very soon. Goodbye.